filling. And once I've got a bit of gleam on this, I'll look carefully for open pores.
Yeah, they'll show better then, huh?
Well, you're going to find some for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of people make a mistake. They just continue French polishing even when they're open pores. Don't do that. Stop as soon as you've got enough gleam that you can see open pores and fill them. Just spot fill.
Without sanding again.
Without sanding it, but then after that you usually have to sand a little bit in those spots. And you use a fairly dry filling pad for that. Sorry, I just saw something I had to sand. Where? I have a big foam block here.
One of these?
Yeah, I had a bigger one. This is fine. I just got a little bit of dirty area of my diamond. So, I've got some black in there. And I'm going to start pretty wet, just like I did with the paper towel. Now, after a while, I won't be going wet like this at all. This is just to get started. I just want to get off the wood as soon as I can. So at this point, this doesn't look very neat. I tend to go halfway into the waist and up like that. The waist is where people always get stuck, especially a tight waist like this, because as you're riding through it, it goes too slow, and then you end up just pulling shellac off as fast as it goes on, you're pulling it off. So I tend to kind of go like that. There are different ways, but with a tight waist like this, I find that works well. You can also just kind of keep going, but sometimes the pad gets stuck that way. Now when I'm starting out, I do as much. You can kind of go back and forth between circles and straight strokes. I do both. I do as much in circles. And I find I can get the shellac going out a little bit faster that way and maybe a little bit more evenly. Now I've got almost enough on here that I should be taking a good look at it to look for open pores. I need a little bit more. But as I said yesterday, if you get too much shellac on, the pumice doesn't take it. When I go with circles, I usually chase it with straight strokes, just to kind of even out the swirls that I've made. Now, let me have a look at this. I think I did a pretty good job filling, actually, because I don't see anything there. It might be this Cody, but I don't think I have to do any spot fillings. With rosewood, I almost always do, and with Cody, I usually do too, but this either that or I just did an unusually good job filling. So I think I can just keep French polishing. Usually I have to do spot filling. This is, it's actually too bad I don't have to. But when you find open pores, your filling flat shouldn't be too wet. You just kind of, let me see, there must be some. I'd like to demonstrate. Shit, did I do that good at that filling?
If you wanna, we can mix and pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I guess I can just French polish. Well, so, once everything is filled, and only when everything is filled, then you can just kind of continue with French polishing. But don't start getting a lot of shellac on until you've really got everything filled. And sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 times. I'll get a gleam on one side. Now I don't usually spot fill right away. I give that shellac 10 minutes to dry. So once I see open pores, I'll flip the guitar to the other side, get a gleam there, then go back to the first side, do my spot filling, go to the second side, do my spot filling, go back to the first side and sand it and French polish. But usually 2 or 3 times I have to go through that process until I can really get into French polishing, that everything is filled. So, and that's really the most practical way to do it. You find open pores, so then you go to
Keep
the
on
next,
going.
go to the next side, get a gleam there, then look for open pores, then go back to the first side and fill those ones, then the second side, fill those ones, then the first side again, and you sand and you French polish, and then maybe you're okay, or you keep looking and maybe you find a few more. But then finally when they're all filled, then you can just get right into it. So I'm at that stage now that I can just kind of keep French polishing. So at this point, now everyone, there are as many ways to French polish as there are people doing it. Everyone has their own way. And French polishing, it's a little bit like bending sides in that nobody can teach you how to do it. You have to get the feel for it yourself. You know, I can't teach you to bend sides. You have to bend, and eventually you get the feel for it and it clicks. The same with French polishing. You just have to do it. And me, I was very slow learning French polishing. It took me a year before I could really sort of get a reasonable result without spending.
What kind of ratio are you supposed to be using for the
What kind of what?
shellac and alcohol and olive oil? What kind of ratio are you supposed to be using?
Well, I'm still just using shellac.
Just shellac.
But what's happening as I French polishing, this fat is going to be constant. Now everyone thin down their shellac, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thin down the Keurig, so it's perfect. As I'm French polishing, this is constantly drying out. It's still okay, but again, I'm going by feel. This is okay at this point, but pretty soon I'll have to add some alcohol because the shellac that's in this fat is drying out. But there's no rule for that, when to add alcohol.
Okay.
When it starts getting sticky, then you either add some alcohol or more shellac, or you add some olive oil.
Okay.
But I haven't added olive oil yet either because this is still going nicely. And you don't add olive oil until you've got a good bit of a gleam. Then a little bit of olive oil helps to lubricate the fat. But this fat is going fine. And to add too much olive oil is a mistake.
Yeah.
Then
Tempting, but
it's tempting.
you better shouldn't do that too quick.
Because the fat glides so nicely over the guitar when you've got olive oil. But then often you can fool yourself. You start getting the whole thing looking beautiful, but actually you got no shellac on there. It's all just a gleam from the olive oil.
Yeah. Or it's partly oil and partly shellac.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there'll always be some shellac.
Yeah, but it's even worse because you get a
Now,
different...
now this is getting a little bit sticky. I'm going to add a bit of olive oil. And because it's and a bit of alcohol. Now this is we'll just check the fat without the olive oil. I added a fair bit of alcohol in. It's okay. When I was first French polishing, I really was working blind. Nobody showed me what I should do, and it took me a while to figure it out. And I had bad luck because the first batch of shellac that I ever got was a bad batch of shellac. It never ever dried. I had to strip the first guitar that I did, and I didn't know that. So I'm going to add some olive oil, just 2 or 3 drops, kind of work it into the fat. And now this fat glides a bit more smoothly. I don't always stop at the waist as I'm doing here, but with this OM, I just find that's kind of practical. It's such a tight waist, it's hard to ride through the waist and not get kind of stuck there. Now probably for this session, I don't have to add more olive oil than I've added. You see that sort of ghost trail?
Yeah.
That's the shellac kind of evaporating. You don't get that though without having some olive oil in the fed. That shows I've added some oil. So you see this is starting to get a bit of a gleam. Starting to look like something. The waist is always the trickiest part. This fat is actually a little bit big. Now look at what's happening to the fat, by the way. Did you notice it was black a while ago? But it's just kind of self-cleaning itself. I kind of tend to just
Little micro pouring filling.
So you'll find your own way that's comfortable, but just be careful in the waist. That's just a tricky area. It's easy to get stuck there. Riding like this, I would probably need a smaller fad than I've got to really ride this waist nicely to go continue. No, that's going okay. So you can kind of go like that, but I usually find it a little bit easier to ride into the waist from both sides. And I like to French polish anyway with my left hand. Even when I'm doing a top or back, I switch hands sometimes because I don't want to end up like one of those lobsters with one great big claw and one little claw, you know. If you're doing a lot of French polishing.
Yeah.
So are you filling the front and the back and the sides first and then?
I haven't filled the back. I'm not going to worry about the back at all until after this guitar is strung, probably.
Okay.
Because I can always work on the back easily after.
So, but when we're filling, should we just do the sides and then try to French polish them, or should we fill?
You can fill the back, but concentrate on the sides, top, and neck. You know, even if the back doesn't get done. You've got all next week to do the back. We'll be gluing the necks on these guitars Tuesday, and by then, like this area for sure is going to be nicely done. Oops, I got some crud on there. I think I spilled something. This side should be nicely done on the top, but the back, you can do just as easily with the neck on as with the neck not on. As I mentioned, the Spaniards, they French polish the whole guitar with everything on. The neck is on, bridge is on. Are we going to do what?
Are we going to use a clear shellac on the top?
Yeah, the same stuff. Yeah,
Because that one looks like a different colour there.
yeah, that one's a different color. I'll demonstrate the top after break. It's not very different. I've got a bit further to go here. And sure enough, I really don't have to do any more filling on this. No, this pad is just a little bit big. Anyway, that's about it. I can keep going for about 10 more minutes. There's no advantage to trying to do too much on each session. Actually, you can just kind of keep going until it starts to get sort of sticky. It starts getting too linty, then it's time to stop. But I can still keep going for another 10 minutes or so. There are no coats in French polishing, just sessions. So it's, and I divide the guitar into 4 sections, one side, the other side, the back, and the top. And it's always an advantage to do the sides first, because once I've done this side, I can flip it around, and if I don't touch the bottom of the troja here, I can just continue with the other side. Then when they're done, I can put it on its top or its back and do one of those surfaces without having to stop. If you do the top or the back first, you've got to wait 2 or 3 hours before you can clamp it in a troja.
Yeah, or it'll stick in.
Now, there's something I didn't mention and should have actually been doing. I should have sanded this neck. It's a good idea to have the neck clamp to the bench and to be doing that at the same time.
Yeah.
Because that way, in between passes on the sides, or the top, or the back, or whatever
Same
surface
position.
you're doing, you can be doing a pass on the neck, and it gives this a little bit more drying time, so you're not taking out the shellac, so you're not going too soon again on the side. So I like to have the neck going at the same time. Anyway, that's about it. Once you're filled, you get a bit of gleam on your sides, look for open pores, and if you don't have any, you can French polish. And if you do, then stop filling with a fairly dry filling pad.